If you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
This is another of our popular Listener's Choice interviews, which we're playing over the weekend. We've chosen the most popular interviews for you to select the Listener's Choice winner. If you're not sure how the Listener's Choice competition works, have a look at horsechats.com/choice for the rules and the leaderboard. Our guest today is Rebecca Jenkins. Rebecca's an all-round horse person who coaches, trains and competes. She does a bit of a combination in both World Cup show jumping as well as show horse. How are you, Rebecca?
Very well, thank you. And yourself?
Good. Now, Becky, we normally start off with a favourite quote. What have you got for us?
Okay, well, I have to say I'm torn between two, and coming from two different people in my life that have played an important role and very inspirational people. The first being Vince Corby, and perfect practice makes perfect. Okay. And the second one I got when I was training in Europe with a man called Albert Vaughan who won a silver medal at the Games in Sydney. And his was, obstacles are what you see when you take your eye off the goal. Okay.
I think both of those, and I don't think you're the first one that's used Vince's perfect practice.
Probably not. No, I think there's a lot of people that have that in their bag of tricks. Yep.
Yes. And he's also influenced quite a lot of people too.
Yes, absolutely. The man was a genius.
Yes.
And his knowledge will be greatly missed by numerous people.
Yeah. And the one about the obstacles with Albert, I think that's a good idea as well. And one, it's applicable to horses, but particularly show jumping.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. And I think a little bit in life as well. You know, you lose sight of where you want to go and what you want to do, and things can go astray.
Yep. Now, I know that you had some very early memories with horses. I think both your parents rode.
Yes.
But can you tell me about one of your early memories? Something that happened, something you learned?
Oh, look, something very, very early on. I think my first rider class, being old enough to ride at Melbourne Royal, and out I went on the Shetland and my paddle rolled. Yep. And I remember not being upset. I was mad. And I proceeded to yell at my mother from the middle of the arena at Melbourne Showground, screaming, my paddles rolled, and rode out of the arena across the track and have them fix my saddle up and send me back out, and the heat for the rider class had finished. And I proceeded to ride up to the steward and the judge and say, excuse me, my paddle rolled. You didn't get to see me. Can I have another go?
No.
I did get another go. It didn't help me any, but I still have. I remember, not being upset. I remember being mad that it had rolled, and I wanted the situation fixed very, very quickly.
And what a kind judge then, if they've allowed you to have another go.
Very kind judge.
Busy schedule like a royal show. It's quite busy.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. Now, was it always that you were going to have a career with horses, or did you do something else on your way to having a career with horses?
Look, I wasn't very great. I didn't like school very much.
Yep.
And didn't certainly finish school. Not that I'm recommending that to anybody, but I was very fortunate because it was our family business horses, so it was like leaving school and doing an apprenticeship. So for me, horses have always been where I wanted to go and my like and my passion. So, I was very lucky that Mum and Dad were already in the industry and could guide me to doing what I needed to do.
Yep. What about people, and thinking about yourself, if you were going to put someone on as staff, what do you think they need to do? Say they're straight out of school, or fairly young. They don't have to be straight out of school, but what sort of core skills or character traits do they need?
Core skills are not afraid of hard work, because working in the horse industry, it's not a job, it's a lifestyle. and it's a very hard lifestyle, and it is not for everyone. You know, you spend long hours, early mornings, late nights, you know, sometimes in the wet and the cold, and you know, sometimes it's not very fun. And when you're starting out, generally you are at the bottom of the pile. You have to start by picking up poo and sweeping and washing rugs and washing horses and those boring, which some people find is a boring, tedious job, but that's all part of it, and it's all learning. And the more time you can spend with a horse, the more you can understand the horse, and the more you can understand a horse, well, the better you can work with them and get them to do things that you want them to do.
Yep. So you've got not afraid of hard work. Is there anything else?
Well, not being, not being afraid of someone being the boss and telling you what to do. Mm-hmm. If you've made a mistake, own up to it and move on.
Yep. Okay. What do you think then is the best thing about working in the horse industry?
I think the best thing about our industry is the fact that you can meet the most amazing people from all over the place, and you can have lifelong friends that you might only see once a year, but they're always only a phone call away. When the chips are down, the horse world rallies together and looks after each other. Yeah, it's a pretty nice place to grow up, going to shows and being around people that like horses and share your passion and interest.
Yes. And it is a shared passion and interest, isn't it?
It is.
It's not just something that's a bit of a passing phase. People that work in the horse industry are there because they like the lifestyle and they like the things that are there and usually stay there.
Yes, it's just something that once it's in your blood, it's something that is very hard to take out of your blood.
Okay. Now, you talked about Vince Corby, Albert Vaughan. Anyone else that you think has really influenced you that you'd like to talk about?
Oh, there's been numerous people along my journey of life and my horse industry that, you know, I have learnt things from, and I do like to say that you'd be open-minded to learn something from anybody, whether it be a show horse person or a dressage or an eventer. Everyone has their own tricks of the trade, and, you know, if you're open-minded to learning new things, you can sometimes come away with some really handy information that, you know, you can file it away in the data bank for some point in time that you just might need something. As for riding, people like I admire and look up to Vicky Roycroft for all her achievements in her life, and fortunately I have had the chance to train with Vicky, and happily I can call her one of my friends, and my little girl loves Vicky to pieces, and Vicky always has the time of day for us, and feel very lucky, and also had lessons with David Dobson. As a young rider, I had lessons with Jenny Shepherd in our young rider squad in Victoria. And on another level, my mum is very inspirational to me. She had a stroke when I was 12. And as a child, I didn't appreciate what she went through to make her recovery. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until I got older that I realised how determined she was as a person when they told her she'd never walk again, let alone ride again. And she said, well, that's not going to happen. And, you know, she went and had the stroke in February and rode at Adelaide Royal in September and World Cup then.
Wow.
And I had no appreciation for it at the time. But as I got older, I've realised that it was pretty darn amazing that she could pull herself up from being totally paralysed down one side and say, I'm not going to let this beat me. So if I could have half her determination in my life, I'd be pretty happy.
Has anyone done used her in any research? I mean, that's pretty remarkable, isn't it?
I'm not sure. She did a few studies. They could never work out why she actually had the stroke.
But it's the recovery. So, you know, it's got to be her very strong mindset and recovery.
Oh, yeah. Amazing. Like, she came home for a weekend visit and couldn't walk, and she walked back into hospital on the Monday. And the nurses stood there clapping at her and said, you know, what have you done? She said, well, I played with horses and I picked up shit.
Wow.
And they were absolutely horrified that she had died, but it was what she knew how to do, and it's what helped her come back.
I just wonder, like you're saying about the whole not being afraid of hard work and everything, but hard work's just physical, and
Yes.
to be, because she would already, when she had the stroke, she would have had to been fairly fit and fairly
She was
physically
very
fit when
fit.
she had it, so that's got to be the, part of the road to recovery, and also just the sheer mindedness and determination that she probably would have picked up being in the horse industry.
That's exactly right. It's a mental toughness being in the horse industry as well, that, you can't let a bad day or bad results shape what happens forever. It's you get a bad review, a bad dressage score, or you get a hack judge slams you. Well, that's okay, because as long as at the end of the day you are happy with what you and your horse did, that's all that matters. And yes, there's always room for improvement, but you've got to be happy in your own skin and be comfortable that you can accept people that do and don't like what you do or you don't do.
Yes, I think so. And no one is ever going to like you 100% of the time. You're never going to get 100% of the people that like you 100% of the time. It's never going to happen.
Absolutely.
Yep.
No.
So I suppose you've just got to move on, haven't you?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. You only need to get 51% like you, and you're sort of in there with a win rather than 49%. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Becky, tell us about a horse that you think has influenced you the most in your career. I'm sure you've had a few, but who do you think, if you're going to pull one out, who's influenced you the most?
Look, I've been very fortunate. I've had lots of horses in my life.
Mm-hmm. Starting with the pony who saddle rolled at Melbourne.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And look, my first proper horse that Mum and Dad bought me when I was 11 turning 12 was a horse called Don Lunn, and Dad bought him off one of our clients, one of his shoeing clients, and she wanted to buy a car, so we bought the horse. And I remember the first show I rode at was on the lawns of Parliament House in Canberra, and I went in the junior. And at the time, John Fay's two boys, Nick and Tim, were the best junior riders in the country, and I was trying to chase them against the clock and was nowhere near fast enough at that stage in my life and my career, but having a go. And I went through the finish flags and I couldn't stop, and I went round and round the arena, which felt like an eternity. And the next minute I headed at the bunting thinking, oh, well, he'll stop at the bunting and I can end this. And he jumped out of the arena.
No.
And I was mortified, embarrassed, never riding again, horrified. And so a few of the elite riders looked at my dad and said, oh, Robbie, you can't do that to her. He'll kill her. He's like, no, I just got to bid him up enough that she can hold him and she'll be fine. And he turned out to be, well, in my eyes, he was the best thing since sliced bread.
Yep.
He carted me through all my juniors, my young riders, and started me in my first World Cup at Melbourne Show when I was 18.
Oh, wow.
And he won a lot of juniors and young riders, and he was my first senior horse that I rode at Royal Shows. Never actually got placed in a World Cup, but...
How big was he? What size?
He was only 15'2".
Okay.
He was, this little mismade. You wouldn't buy him as a type. He was mismade, upside down, back to front creature, but he had a heart the size of an ox and would jump anything I headed him at.
Yeah.
And he gave me so much confidence and belief in that I could do it and do anything.
Yep.
And, he was a gem, and then I gave him to two of our students after I'd finished with him, and he finally broke down and retired after he jumped at 16 Adelaide Royals.
Wow.
And he finally died at Mum and Dad's place at the age of 32. So,
wow.
He was very special. Yeah, so probably I'd have to say he probably shaped me, because he was the first horse that I jumped around big tracks on and gave me the confidence to do it.
Yep. What do you think your proudest moment's been?
My proudest moment is probably not horse-related. My proudest moment is having my daughter.
Okay. I should have said proudest moment with horses, shouldn't I?
Okay.
Yeah. Although is she the one that you've got the pony for?
Yeah. She's the one that rides, and so it's lots of fun.
Yes.
My proudest horse moment, probably winning the Australian Championships as a young rider.
Yep.
It was a very special moment. The horse that I rode was called Batman. Was ridden by Mum, Dad and myself at various times in his life. And he was owned by very dear friends of ours. And he had done a tendon 12 months to the day. And it was the last time he was going to be given to a junior rider after that day. So I hadn't jumped him in the ring for 12 months. And I came to the ring and I won the Australian Championships on him. And then I gave him to Matt Williams, who has gone on to go to the Olympic Games and the World Championships, and who's based overseas now. And Matty had him for a few years and got leading junior riders on him at Royal Shows as well. So
it just goes to show, you need a really good schoolmaster, though, to get started.
Yes.
If you've got that good schoolmaster get started, it helps you along, doesn't it? Yep.
Absolutely. Someone to show you the ropes.
Yeah. You've still got to do the work. It's not all, I'll just go and buy a schoolmaster and
nice
that's it.
To have a partner that knows a little bit more than you do, that then can make your job when you're learning a little bit easier.
Beck, what do you think has been your biggest challenge then along the way?
Biggest challenge. There's numerous challenges in life, especially when it comes to horses. Some days, the motivation is hard. Some days it's a juggling act between coaching, family life, husband, daughter, trying to ride myself. That sometimes is a big challenge.
Yep.
Look, I had a stage where I had a couple of horses that wouldn't jump flat water in big classes. That was a big challenge to try and nut that problem out, and that was very challenging for a very long time. And sometimes hindsight's a wonderful thing, that maybe some problems possibly you shouldn't try and tackle. Mm-hmm. But nothing specific comes to mind as my biggest challenge as such.
What do you say, though, for people who do have challenges, because everyone's going to have challenges? Is this where the obstacles are what you see when, what do you say, but when the goals aren't clearly defined? Or
when
like
obstacles are what you see when you take your eye off the goal.
Okay.
So if if you believe that, I can't go to that show for whatever reason, okay, life sometimes throws curveballs at you and you can't. But more so, I think, if you think, I can't jump that course, then no, you won't, because you are in the wrong mindset to do so. So it's a matter of breaking it down and looking at the bits that you go, I can do this, I can do that part of it, and put it all together, and then look, there you go, it works. It's when people throw their hands in the air and go, I can't, before they've actually analysed and thought about it.
Yep. So what advice do you give them? Someone says, I can't. What do you say to them?
Well, a few different things, why do they think they can't is, why?
Yep.
And sometimes because they're frightened or they think their horse, or they think they're not good enough, or I'm at this amazing venue at this big show and there's all these people around me. And, I've got one girl that I teach that she really struggles with her nerves and gets very frightened about the whole thing. And I constantly keep reminding her, why do you ride? She said, I love it. I said, there's your answer. You love it and you want to do this. You've just got to push through that fear sometimes to go, I can do this. And the little steps along the way. That it's not the whole daunting big picture of, oh my God, I'm at this show and there's all these elite riders there. Well, I'm here because I've paid my entries and I want to be here, so I am going to ride my horse and I am going to do the best job I can do. And more times than not, it does work.
Yeah. Okay, put on your coaching cap and think about bringing on young riders. What's a common fault you see when riders are starting to jump?
A common fault? I do have to say that sometimes I think people get lazy.
Yep.
That they half bake, that'll do. Well, every time you ride, you should try and make it a learning, a positive, a training experience, so that then things that don't come naturally to you as a rider, like when you're riding, of course, you've got to think about what you're doing to practice those things to make them become natural for you. So then when you get in the ring, it makes your job much easier to do those things. Mm-hmm. And setting realistic goals. I'm sure if you ask any 8-year-old that's want to be equestrian. What do you want to do? I want to go to the Olympic Games. Well, yes, that is an amazing long-term goal, but maybe you need to scale it down a little bit and work out the steps how you get to the Olympic Games, not that I'm going to the Olympic Games.
Yep.
Yeah, goal setting is something that's very important, and I know myself with all my horses, I set goals where I would like them to be at various stages or at certain shows, what I would like them to be able to achieve. And I find it's not that it's set in concrete that you go, well, that's what I have to do. Well, if it's not going according to your plan, you can always change your goals. But to have a bit of a where you want to go is, I think, a very important thing.
What about then, you've said that that's something that you see going wrong, and we talked about just young riders. Does that go through with more experienced riders, adult riders, professional riders?
Oh, absolutely. And I think sometimes that when some of the professional riders, and they're very successful and very good, that you can get a bit complacent or a bit, I don't have to try so hard because it comes easy for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we can always constantly keep improving ourselves. So got to constantly keep putting in the effort.
Yep. Okay, now what about, have you got a book that you can recommend for the listeners?
That I'd have to say nothing specific. I'm not a big reader myself.
Mm-hmm.
There are lots of books out there, but it's a bit like, taking bits from different trainers. So I'm sure multiple books out there. George Morris has a couple. There's a book, a really good one, Grids and Exercises, and I do have that one, and I have read that one. I'm not
Sorry,
sure
what's that one? The last one you said?
It's about grids and little exercises.
Okay. Is that like 101 show jumping exercises?
Yeah, that one. That's quite a good one for exercises, and I think sometimes the biggest thing is to ask people. Ask people that you look up to. What do you do for a horse that might be a little slow in front, or a horse that just doesn't quite reach its combinations? And ask the people that you admire that do it, because they've all would have faced the same problems that you're facing.
Yep.
Sometimes, hands-on knowledge is the best answer, I think.
And remember, you can find all the books recommended by our guests at horsechats.com/books. You can have a look at the guest page for the individual book they recommended, or just look at the recommended books by order of popularity at horsechats.com/books. Okay, now what are you looking forward to now? What have you got on your calendar for next year?
I've got to get through this year first. We've got.
I should have said the rest of the year, shouldn't I? And next year.
Yeah.
Yep. In the next 12 months.
In Elysian in the next 2 weeks,
yep.
Which is one of the biggest shows in Australia. It has horses coming from all over the country to come to this show. Very fierce competition and great jumping and great prize money.
Yep.
And all our ag shows up here, and then Brisbane Royal, and then somewhere in there I'm having a second baby.
Have you got a month or anything you're due?
In August. 20th of August I'm due.
Yep.
So
Brisbane Royal's in August. Are you riding at Brisbane Royal?
No, I've stopped. I'm still riding at home now. I've stopped competing. I started competing at Sydney Show, and then it all just didn't feel right. So I tapped my hat and said, okay, I'm done for now. And fortunately for me, my husband's a very good jockey, so he could just pick up the ride on my horses and keep going. So I just am the coach and the spectator and the groom for the next few months. And, planning on being back for the Oz Champs in November down at Bonio in Victoria, and then, Equitana, Adelaide 3 days for the World Cup, and then the World Cup shows in Victoria to finish off the year, I would think.
Okay. That's going to be a pretty busy year for you, and I love the way that you had about 10 horse things and said, in there somewhere I'm going to have a baby. You're such a horse person.
Yeah, that's about how it works.
Yeah. Just sort of fit it all in. It sounds like your baby's a bit like you were, when you were working in a horse family, in the family business, and you just fit in. Yeah.
And our daughter is exactly the same. She went to her first show at 7 weeks of age, hasn't stopped going to shows. She comes to copious clinics, and I'm sure she could stand on the sidelines and do my job. She's heard us repeat it that many times.
Yeah. Okay, Beck, just in a few sentences, can you summarise your philosophy with horses?
Think horse. Always think, oh, my horse won't do this. Well, think, why won't my horse do this?
Mm-hmm.
And more times than not, if you can think why the horse won't do this, you can nut the problem out and find a solution for it.
Yes, and if you're thinking like a horse and thinking why, then that whole communication becomes a lot better and a lot clearer, doesn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, now how can people contact you?
Facebook, or contact me on my mobile.
Yep.
Or via email.
Yep.
0419
Yep.
594016.
Yep. Or else those details will be on your page, which will be horsechats.com/Rebecca Jenkins, or go to horsechats.com, search for Rebecca or search for Jenkins. Okay, wonderful to talk to you today. I'd love to catch up with you later on in the year when you're sort of fitting everything else in, all these horse things, having a baby, chat on Horse Chats, just sort of
Thank you very
slip
much.
it in. Yeah, that's okay, Beck, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks very much. Lovely to talk to you.
Bye.
Bye.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.